Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight here at Milton High School. We're glad that you were able to join us, those of you that are online, those of you that are here with us in person. We're very fortunate to have a couple of guests with us this evening that are going to talk to us a little bit about some of the experiences that our kids come across in their average day here in school and outside of school. This is an opportunity to present you with some information that potentially could help your kids and also make you more informed as parents, guardians, family members, and community members. So I'm not going to belabor this process. We're going to jump right into it. I'm very fortunate to have Ann Dwanzig from Evangelical Community Hospital here to talk with us about the health risks that have to do with vaping and nicotine type devices. Ann?
Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with is a video. Just know that I spent 6 days here with your children in the middle school. Saw every child in the middle school, so the video you're going to see they also saw. And next week 6 or 9, 10, 11, and 12 is also going to see this video. Again, it's an educational video because there is a lot of misleading information out here. Understand the companies that want you to buy their products are the ones feeding you information. So they're going to tell you what you need to do, what their products are, and why you should be buying them. And 100% they are targeting our kids, okay? Because if you think about it, these tobacco companies, their whole generation, their revenue is targeting kids, okay? The adults, they want us to use it, but the more kids they can get hooked at a younger age, the more their revenue is going to increase over the years. So we're gonna watch this video. Again, I'm only gonna do a little short bit of it, but just to kind of get an idea of exactly how dangerous these products are. We know that 5.3 million teens vape. That's an enormous number. And as you'll hear, vaping can hurt your lungs and make you more vulnerable to viruses of all kinds. This video is going to concentrate on how vaping directly impacts the pulmonary system. You know, breathing. But first, and some of you may know some of this by now, let's go over the basic ways vaping impacts your health. Due to the urgency of this subject matter, a few of our interviews were recorded remotely due to nationwide social distancing restrictions at the time.
But vaping's been around about 10 years, we're still trying to figure out what happens. I think it's generally agreed upon that vaping does have an effect on the lung.
Vaping involves the inhalation of about 30 to 80 chemicals, and so as you breathe in this cloud of chemicals, they touch down on the cells lining your airways, going all the way deep, deep into the lungs.
In fact, some of the chemicals found in vaping liquid are known carcinogens. And we know carcinogens can cause cancer.
In the process of using a vaping device, that liquid gets heated and then mixed with air as it is breathed in. And that leads to the creation of 2 to 3 times the number of chemicals that were just in the liquid.
The juuling and the vaping, like the vape smoke, it like kind of sits in your lungs. It's wet, almost. Like I vaped in my car with my windows rolled up, and like there's like a film on the windows. So then I started to like think like, okay, if this film is on the windows, then it's definitely in my lungs.
I get a cough that's like not any kind of cough I've ever had before.
So it will fall down to the bottom of the lung along with other chemicals. The lung only has a limited capacity of reabsorbing any extra fluid that comes inside it. The rest stays there. Now you have a stew of all these chemicals sitting at the base of your lungs.
It just feels like my body's super different than it used to be, and it feels like my body isn't working as well as it used to be.
Vaping hasn't been around long enough to have hard data on lifetime health impact, but we have plenty of data on carcinogens in cigarettes. We already know how destructive they are.
In my lab, we're finding that vaping causes effects on proteases. This is kind of interesting and also maybe a little bit scary, because protease levels are also increased in the lungs of smokers, and we notice that proteases are actually starting to chew up the lungs and cause emphysema.
Now, let's get a quick education on how healthy lungs are supposed to work.
The lungs have evolved over millennia to do one thing really well, is the exchange of gas molecules. And if you look up the size of an oxygen molecule or a nitrogen molecule, they're incredibly tiny. And our lungs were designed to take in this clean air and quickly get across into the bloodstream oxygen.
Lungs were made to breathe oxygen and not anything else. So any other additive that we send through the lungs is potentially a toxin.
So cilia are one of our defenses in our lungs that really protect us against all kinds of things that we accidentally or on purpose inhale. So cilia line the airways, and so the things that we breathe in, like pollen, for example, that get into the lungs and they stick to the surface, the cilia then can beat it out. So these cilia move in these waves, and they are able to sort of move things up and out.
And they basically move mucus and other things out of the lungs so we can swallow it or spit it out or cough it out. And ciliary beating is it's a normal process. It's kind of like how the lung helps keep itself clean. But in vaping, the data is suggesting that vaping is slowing ciliary beating and potentially slowing kind of mucus movement out of the body. And so you can have more of this stuff kind of potentially trapped in there.
And so we're seeing effects of these chemicals not only directly on the cells of the lungs, but also throughout the body because they get into the bloodstream.
The first time I felt like I had a problem was probably when I joined the softball team my sophomore year and then basketball too. And then I find myself sitting at the basketball court being out of breath from one lap.
I would always be out of breath. I definitely felt a lot less active. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I felt like I just couldn't keep up with the practices anymore the more I was doing it.
My lungs did feel a little bit heavy at times. It was more so coughing, almost feeling like a little bit of mucus or something in the back of my throat. It just did not physically feel well at all.
Perhaps no story sums up how much vaping damages your lungs more than Daniel Ammons. He's a 17-year-old boy who received a double lung transplant due to, you guessed it, vaping.
Today, the first person to receive a double lung transplant after his lungs were irreversibly damaged by vaping is sharing his story.
He's speaking out now to warn against e-cigarettes.
I just don't want people.
Daniel, who is 17, now takes 20 pills a day and will be on medication for the rest of his life. And his dream of being a Navy SEAL is finished. Today, his goal is more modest: to live.
And the saddest part of that is that a lung transplant, on average, somebody only lives 5 years after a lung transplant.
I mean, do we need any more evidence vaping is extremely dangerous?
Okay, so I'm going to stop the video there and I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint and I'm going to go through it really quickly. Just to understand, this is extremely dangerous. Parents feel that their child are using these, well, it's better than them using cigarettes. They are one and the same, if not worse. Okay, so to educate parents, these are no better. You would never allow your child to light a Marlboro in front of you. No child should be vaping, and no parent should be encouraging this. Okay, and I'm going to show you exactly why there is some serious health concerns. Understand, Daniel is a 100% real kid who vapes, who told you he vapes. Daniel, at the age of 17, became the first recipient of a double lung transplant solely because he used Juul. Okay, so Juul was his choice. He chose to use Juul, and that put him in the hospital. He is the kid known for the double lung transplant. Okay, and the saddest thing is, that double lung transplant is only going to get him to about 24 or 25. He'll have to have another lung transplant at age 25. And again, if you think getting one was a miracle, him getting two in a lifetime is going to be rare. So, like I told your children, he made a dumb mistake as a 7th grader, an 8th grader. Dumb mistake. Kids are supposed to make dumb mistakes, but it shouldn't cost him his life. Okay, so they need to be educated. They need to know what. Like I told the kids, if you're choosing to use this, you need to at least have the facts and know what you're getting into when it comes to this. So the increasing numbers, and again, these are statistics from 2021. They are probably even higher now. There are more kids vaping than ever. In fact, they are now labeling this as an epidemic. Okay, we all know what happened at the last epidemic. Vaping is now being known to be an epidemic. So just some of the products that the kids have, these are combustibles. So you have, combustible would be your Marlboros, the cigarettes you light on fire, your e-cigs, are your Juuls, the Mods, Soren, Leap and Go, Views, Pens, Puff Bars, Blues, and Joys and Kings. Okay, that's just a couple of the names. Understand, when the FDA attempts to regulate these, for every one they regulate, 15 new hit the market. Okay, so the FDA cannot catch up with them. Okay, so nobody's monitoring them. Nobody is requiring them to disclose their ingredients. There are some of the ingredients, 100% there is nicotine in these. 100%. Even the ones that say there are no nicotine in them, there is 100% nicotine in there. These companies are not going to sell you something that you're not going to get addicted to and want to come back for more. They're not going to sell you a one and done. All kinds of chemicals, there's your diacetyl, cancer-causing agents, and there's all kinds of heavy metals in these when you're inhaling these products. Again, there are some more. Understand that we're seeing what they would call popcorn lung because of diacetyl. You know, if you take a kernel of popcorn and you pop it, okay, you can never take it back to the kernel. And that's what's happening in lungs, is they're getting popcorn lungs, which is affecting their ability to breathe and seriously damaging their lungs. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they are meant to be hidden. Okay, so the first one up there is a watch. It looks very much like an Apple Watch. If you pop out the side of it, it is actually a vape. So there is a highlighter that's made to look, again, hide in plain sight to make them seem less dangerous than they are. So this is how they work. You're not lighting them on fire. They're charged and they're heated up. So there's all different kinds of chemicals in there. There's lead, there's metal. What happens is when those liquids are heated up and they're drug across those coarse wires and all that stuff, heated up, you're breathing in metal, you're breathing in all kinds of stuff. The e-juices, there's just a sample of the juices. So these would be the juices that kids would use in the mods, which are the bigger ones that you actually have to fill on your own. There's over 10,000 different flavors. Some of the ones the kids will tell you, Swedish Fish, Fruit Loops, Unicorn, my gosh, there's so many of them, I can't even name them. So they're averaging about 7,000 to 10,000 different flavors these kids have to choose from. And understand, they have the ability to mix and match. So maybe they want birthday cake flavored like strawberries. So they'll mix and match the flavors. Understand, when they mix and match, they're doubling, if not tripling, the level of nicotine entering in their bodies. Juul is the one that we heard a lot about. Juul has quietly gone away, but they're still out there. They were told to remove some of the fruit flavors, which you can go into Sheetz and buy any of this stuff. But Juul's what got Daniel in trouble. Okay? Solely he used Juul, and that's what eventually will end his life. Some of the mods, so these are some of the box mods. So here's just kind of the styles that have happened. So this was some of the ones in 2020. Then what started to happen, they realized those box mods were very big and very hard to hide. Okay, so they switched gears and they started to make them a little smaller and easier to get in and out of schools. They were going to be less visible. So some of the salt-based ones have now come out. Again, the salt-based ones will tell you that it's a smoother feel down your throat. But understand, it's got salt, it's got all kinds of chemicals in it. Next ones, these are the big ones. So 2022, the disposable ones hit the market. Okay, let's make it easier for kids. They're pre-filled, they're designed to look like something they're not, and they're very cheap. $8.99, $12.99, $15.99, depending on your puffs. And here's the deal. If they get caught with one of these, they're only out $10, $12. They get caught with one of the bigger mods, it could be hundreds of dollars. So again, they're watching their market closely. Who's buying this stuff? So there's some more of the ones. So down here are the really, really popular ones that most of the kids have. And after you're done, I have some displays down here that I can show you. But again, very much eye-catching, very much kind of, if you look at them, the kids like them. They're very colorful. Again, it's just the names, the height, the hugs, the king. Okay, they're fun to say. I mean, if we said vapes, nobody's going to buy them. But when we say kind of the king or the puffs, these are some more of the disposable ones. Again, kids are now buying them based on puffs. 800, 1,600, and 2,000 different puffs. Again, the higher the puffs, these are the ones that the kids have a lot of. And again, very much fun to look at. They're colorful. They're very pastels. They're made to most look like highlighters, magic markers. Again, if it was black and ugly, they may not think, I mean, it looks dangerous, but these are real pretty colors. And again, if you think pastels are very nice. They're not kind of threatening. You don't feel intimidated by pastels. And again, the companies have watched this. So there's more of the puff bars. This is the smoke. And again, I have a couple of these up here too. So the kids know the advantages. Again, some of the disposable ones are the ones that the kids like. They're all out, they're less expensive, and they're easier to use. Understand, parents will say, well, there's no nicotine in these. Yes, there is, 100%. So if your kid is burning through one puff bar a day, understand that's equal to a pack of Marlboros. Okay, there's no difference. Okay, it smells better and it tastes better, okay, but it's still a pack of Marlboros. And again, the thought process is that it smells good and tastes good, how bad can it be? So, look at the nicotine. We all probably know somebody who was hooked on nicotine, and when nicotine is slowly withdrawn, Okay, you see side effects. We're seeing the same side effects in 8th graders. I'm telling you right now. I had one of your kids come up and talk to me. He's highly addicted to nicotine in 8th grade and doesn't know what to do with himself. Okay, so you cannot say that there is no nicotine in these products. There's 100% nicotine in here. So, how do we hide these? So just to kind of give you an idea, if you look up there, there's multiple vapes up there. But if you looked into a kid's backpack, you may not be able to quickly find them. And again, made to be designed, hidden in plain sight. There's some more of them. Okay, these are all vapes. So this one, the vape is attached to his backpack. The middle one, the vape's attached to the sweatshirt. And the other one, again, is that Apple Watch. Again, put it on a wrist, it tells time. Only thing you have to do is pop it off, and there's your vape. An adapter for a phone. Okay, go online. The vape companies will actually tell you where to hide them. Where is it easy? Where can you hide them so nobody sees? So the girls, very much disguised as lipsticks. So you could have a kid vaping, and if they look at it and they see a lipstick, you may not even know the difference that truly is a vape. The ability to design them and decorate them. Okay, your kids love to decorate things, their cell phones, their backpacks, their water bottles. This falls right in line. Again, you have very, very non-threatening. You have penguins and llamas. Okay, again, think about this, marketing to kids. This is one of the newer ones. You have to kind of look very closely to see which one is the asthma inhaler and which one is the vape, and designed to be hidden in plain sight. These companies know what they're doing and who they're targeting. So there's your vape, and it's very easy. You can go on Amazon and order it. 140 bucks. Again, if someone looks in the backpack, they may not be able to tell which is the vape. So, is my kid vaping? There's a chance. Okay, some of the things you want to look for, is there a sweetness in the air? Okay, usually if you go into a bathroom and you all of a sudden get hit with this smell of strawberries or cotton candy, or there's like this sweet smell, chances someone was vaping in there. Okay, unfamiliar things, pens. Okay, these up here, like I said, I have a whole bunch up here. Is something in the backpack look different? Again, there's the caffeine use, water, nosebleeds. The telltale sign that we're starting to hear now is the cough in the kids. Okay, so we used to hear about a smoker's cough, now it's a vapor's cough. You're hearing that. And again, looking for things that are discarded. Some of the packs, some of the ones on the jewels have little plastic tabs. Are you seeing things that you don't know what they're connected to or what they look like? How to help your child, okay? Vaping is an epidemic. Ask questions. The main thing is you're gonna have to be patient, because you have a 7th or 8th grader highly addicted to nicotine, and what do we do with them? Okay? And you're gonna have to be patient. It's gonna take time. You're literally going to have to treat him. There's not gonna be an improvement. And again, the child has to want to stop, and we as their parents need to encourage that. Okay? They need to stop. Okay? If your child is using this for some type of anxiety, depression, any of that kind of stuff, again, you're just opening up a whole nother can of worms with addiction. There are other services out there to help with this. Turning your kid onto a vape is not going to help. Okay? So I'll turn it over to Scott. He can kind of talk again. He'll talk more about some of the addictions here.
I just got to do a quick computer change here.
Well, they're making a quick change. Something that I think a lot of us take for granted is that not only are we here to educate our students in the academics, but the number one responsibility that we have as a school district for all of our kids, our faculty and our staff, is to keep them safe. That's our number one responsibility. And unfortunately right now, that's a very difficult thing to do when you're talking about multi-billion-dollar companies that are specifically targeting our kids, and targeting them not in a positive way, but getting them addicted to something that can have lifelong impacts on their health. That is why we are taking this extremely serious, and we're extremely fortunate to have some great resources at our disposal. And one of those is our new resource officer this year, Officer Davis. He is a former state trooper, and he was a drug expert with the state troopers. So he has been a wealth of knowledge and information to our district, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of that tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. As Mr. Berge said, I am one of the SROs here, and you have to ask yourself, well, why is the school getting the police involved in these issues? So I kind of just wanted to introduce our SROs, even though the other two aren't here. But we have Officer Durr. He's a retired police officer from Watsontown Borough, was the police chief there. Vast knowledge and experience, a lot of undercover work with him as well. Officer Evans retired from the state police, started the state police in 1992. Excellent with the kids as well, does a lot of coaching, and he's currently the coach at Warrior Run for the girls softball team. And then me, I was a drug expert for the state prior to retiring in 2019. I was around for the legalization of marijuana, so I talked to a lot of the state legislators and looked at it from a legal standpoint, and that's a whole other class we could get into at a later time. Okay, so what's the goal with the SROs, and why are the police involved in these scenarios? You know, the goal of the SRO is to help make the school safe. Okay, safe school is a huge concern. We want these kids to have a good learning environment. So that's our job here as SROs, and we deal with all kinds of stuff there. Our goal is not to arrest our children, but to make this a safe learning environment. So that's the purpose of the SROs. But what is the vapes in school? We have a lot. One, any juvenile, any minor, anyone under the age of 21 who possesses a vape, it's illegal. Okay, they're not allowed to have it. Two, a lot of health concerns, we just heard that. But it also leads to a lot of disruptive behaviors. We see fights, we see kids missing class, you name it, peer pressure, pushing other kids to do it as well. Impacts on their learning, concentration, stuff like that. And it's a gateway to other illegal activities. Possession of illegal controlled substances, thefts. It's very, very expensive. A lot of our kids don't have this kind of money, so they'll resort to other crimes to support that habit, just like any other drug violation. So my goal here tonight is I'm just going to go over some of the laws here in Pennsylvania, because these kids are getting these vapes from somewhere. And normally when we find a kid with a vape and we ask where it comes from, a lot of times they're getting them from parents, or they're getting them from older siblings who are able to legally purchase them, or they're buying them from past students, friends, whatever. Okay, so Title 18, Section 6305 is the sale of tobacco products. Okay, you are not allowed to sell any tobacco products or provide any tobacco products for anyone under the age of 21. Okay, so there you have one. Sells tobacco products to any minor. Subsection 2 furnishes by purchase, gift, or other means tobacco products to a minor. Okay, and a minor for this section is anybody under the age of 21 unless they're current active duty or honorably discharged from the military, then it can be age 18. Okay, so 6305 continued, subsection A1, to purchase. A minor is guilty of a summary offense if the minor, one, purchases or attempt to purchases a tobacco product, or knowingly or falsely represents himself as someone who can do that. Okay, so, and here's the penalties. And this is a big thing, you know, and eventually it may lead to the point where some of these parents who are providing these vapes may end up getting arrested. So first offense, summary offense, not less than $100, not more than $250, plus cost. And when you look at court cost, At a magistrate's level, I think it's right around 150 now. So you'd be looking at, $400 in cost for a first offense. Second offense, $250 to $500. Third offense, $500 to $1,000. Okay? A minor who violates that can be given community service, up to 75 hours of community service, have to complete some kind of educational program, and fines not to exceed $200. Okay? So there's a lot there. Now, when we talk about all these vapes, and there's many different kinds out there, you gotta look at the hidden dangers. Okay? Nicotine is bad in itself, but these vapes are very, very easy to tamper with, and you don't always know what you're getting in those vapes, okay? So there's a new product out on the market, and when you look at marijuana, and this is kind of a little side note, the active ingredient in marijuana, the delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, delta-9 THC, is the active ingredient that gets you high, okay? Well, they're having, through genetics and stuff, we now have delta-8 and delta-10, there's some delta-6, there's a whole bunch there that also has psychoactive qualities to it, kind of like the delta-9. Well, under the federal guidelines, delta-8 and delta-10 are not illegal, so a lot of our kids are going online and they're purchasing delta-8 and delta-10. Delta-8 and delta-10 is illegal in the state of Pennsylvania, and you can find that as a Schedule I controlled substance on Title 35 under 780-104, subsection 12. Okay, actually lists all your tetrahydrocannabinols as a Schedule I controlled substance. So, the convenience store in New Columbia sometimes has it. These kids get it from there. One, it's a PWID, possession with intent to deliver. To give that to a kid, if a parent or a brother or sister, friend supplies that, they've committed a felony violation for possession of intent to deliver a controlled substance. Okay? You can buy it off the internet, ships right to your house. Go in, put in a fake ID. Nobody's checking this stuff. Just like Ann said, these big companies just want the money. Okay? Delta-9 THC, the legalization of marijuana. It's so convenient now. You can't tell the difference between a marijuana vape and a nicotine vape. Okay, there's very subtle differences. We actually have test kits that we test the vapes to make sure when they come in that there's nothing illegal in it, that it is just nicotine. And we are finding delta-8, delta-10, we are finding THC in some of the vapes, okay? But the big fear is the hidden additives, okay? This is just a store-bought vape, and I'll show you how easy it is to get into. I can just pull this open, pull out this little container, and you can see it kind of has a little sponge there. All I have to do is shoot some THC oil in there, and now I have a marijuana vape. Or I can put in anything else, okay? Stimulants, we're seeing methamphetamine, we're seeing cocaine added to these. You name it, they're putting it in there. Big thing, I do a lot of work down in Philadelphia, we're seeing a lot of tranquilizers. Xylazine, Xylenol, we're seeing in there, they're animal tranquilizers. We're finding them sold quite frequently in the vapes, okay? Superlorifin is an active ingredient in rat poison. It blocks the B12 in your body. It keeps your blood from clotting, so your blood's thinner. People are actually internally bleeding from this. We're seeing that as well. And then the big dreaded fentanyl. Okay, fentanyl is a very, very deadly substance. We're seeing the Mexican drug cartels are shipping it into the United States in huge, huge amounts. The heroin is now mostly fentanyl. If you do not have a tolerance to opioids, just a small amount can be fatal, okay? And the scary thing about that is, last school year, Mifflin County was testing their vapes. They actually found 5 different vapes that contain fentanyl, okay? So if we get a kid who gets a fentanyl vape, it could be lights out, okay? Now, we have Narcan here. The nurses have Narcan. The officers have Narcan. That's no guarantee. Some of this fentanyl, the Narcan's not working. We're Narcanning people on the street, sometimes 4 or 5. Actually blocking those opioids. Okay, so it's no joke. That's the last thing we, special school. But what do we do when these kids are at home and their parents don't even know they're doing it? Okay, and you say, well, why do they put that stuff in there? Well, it's a gateway drug. The more you can get somebody addicted to something, the more I can sell them and the more money I can make. And that's all what it comes down to, is let's get these kids addicted to more and more and more, because it's a constant revenue stream coming in. So that's kind of the legal side of it, is one, parents, don't give it to your kids. One, it's not healthy for them. Two, it's illegal. Brothers, sisters, friends. Eventually, it's going to come to the point where we're going to have to start charging. Okay, and that's not our goal here as SROs. Our goal is to keep it a safe learning environment. But if that's the tool we need, that's what we're going to have to do. And Mr. Campbell is going to talk to you about the school policy and how they're going to deal with that aspect. While he's coming down here, I have a bunch of stuff up here. Some vape related, but a lot of other drug stuff. If you guys have any drug related questions, please ask me. I've done a lot undercover work. I've pretty much my whole career has been drug and alcohol related. So ask any questions you want.
So as we talked a little bit about earlier about keeping our kids safe, you can just see how difficult that can be to do that. When kids have access to just about anything and everything. And one thing that we have seen with our kids is that these types of devices, this epidemic doesn't discriminate. I can't tell you how many parents I've talked with that said, my kid would never do this. My kid's in sports, they're top 10 in the class, they wouldn't do this. And what we have seen repeatedly is that it does not discriminate, because it is marketed in a way that it is not bad for you. It's marketed in a way specifically for our kids that it's a cool looking device, it smells good, it tastes good, and we don't hear about it quite as much as we used to, but early on when this became a problem is that kids would constantly tell us there's no nicotine in it. It's not bad for you, because that's the message that they were getting. They are starting to get that message now a little bit, that it is bad for you, but it is marketed so much out there for kids. It is so easy to use. You don't hardly see it, you don't smell it. Kids can be using this in class undetected, put it in their sleeves, you can't see it. They can take a puff of it in the middle of a classroom, they can go in the bathroom, they pass it around to their peers. This is an extremely difficult subject that we're doing our best to broach for the safety of our kids. Hence the reason that we're trying to get this word out to our community and our parents. But if there's one thing that I would like you as a community and families to know, is that yes, it absolutely could be your kid. It absolutely could be your child. I don't care how good you think they are. I don't care how much you think they stay away from this stuff. That is not necessarily the case. It's scary. It's very scary, as you've heard from Ann and Officer Davis. We take this seriously. We're blessed to have these guys a part of our district and working with us to be able to help support our kids. But it's a challenge for us, and for us to truly overcome this is where it says it takes a community to raise a child. We need our community to truly come together and support our kids and recognize what things they have access to and do our best to try to help support them and help avoid these types of things. So the last piece that we want to talk to you about is how our school district approaches our nicotines, our drugs and things like that, how we handle that from a school district perspective. Mr. Campbell is our Dean of Students here at the high school and the middle school level. He deals with this on a regular basis, almost a daily basis. He's going to talk to you about how we handle this from a disciplinary standpoint through the school district to let you know what it looks like if your child or if a child gets caught with one of these devices.
So through this process, this school year, we've had 46 vapes that we have confiscated. When we start the search and an investigation of everything, the first thing that I do is contact our principals, and then my next one is to contact our SRO to get them down to the office. And every vape, even if it's a nicotine vape that the student is stating it is, it gets tested for a controlled substance. Once that all happens, we contact the parent and then go through the process. If you're in a middle school, the student for the first offense is suspended out of school for 3 days. In the high school, it's 1 day out of school suspension. And then the second time, it is a 5-day suspension in the middle school and a 3-day suspension in the high school. The last time for everybody is a meeting with Dr. Bickhardt, our superintendent, and then there's the possibility of an expulsion from our school for at least a calendar year. With all of the offenses, they have to go through a couple different other aspects where they have to do a restorative practice class online. It's called Catch My Breath. They also, on the second time, they would get a district magistrate referral where they would get a fine, possible probation, community service, anything else that Judge Deal would like to issue. What else do I need to talk about?
Mr. Campbell, talk a little bit about what is one of the first things that our SROs have really trained us to do when we begin a search. If we're notified of a kid has a dab pen on them or a vape on them, what are one of the things that they harp on us on a regular basis?
So the biggest thing with SRO Davis is to make sure that we have gloves, a mask on. We have go bags for each of the middle school and the high school that he's provided us to keep us all safe. I can't tell you a week that goes by that SRO Davis doesn't talk about fentanyl and how deadly it is. So he has made sure that we are all safe here, including the students. I can't tell you a lunch that goes by that he's not talking to a student about the harmful effects of the vapes or the drugs that could possibly be in the school. He's a huge resource for us. I appreciate all that he does for us.
Where are some of the places that we've discovered over the years where kids typically like to hide these things, and where do they use them as well?
So I have found, we've had 64 vapes just in the high school in the last 3 years that I've done this. I've found them in tennis shoes. I've found them in people's pants that we don't want to go to. Backpacks, lockers, pretty much anywhere they are willing to hide it or pass it off to the next person. This year, we have seen students go into storage lockers to try to use a dab pen or a vape. They're even getting to the point where they'll try to do it in the middle of class. It's that addiction that Ann has talked about. They're willing to do it anywhere. I've actually had a couple kids that just walking down the middle of the hallway with everybody, they try to do it. It's really concerning.
So Mr. Campbell touched a little bit about where the kids try to hide these. That's another horrible thing about this. They are so small, kids can hide them anywhere. Kids know that there's a few places that more than likely we're not going to look. They can hide them, girls hide them in the bras, boys hide them in their underwear. We're not in the business of doing any type of strip searches here at Milton High School. So they're aware of that, they know that. So they are pretty smart and they hide those places typically where we can't find them. We do our best to try to get it out of them. We try to have enough information going into it that we know they have it on them, and push the issue a little bit. But if kids really, if the kid really does not want to give it up, then they can typically put it in one of those 2 locations. So yeah, it's an issue. So what are we doing as a school district in addition to having a community vaping night to talk about the dangers of it, the health effects, the legal ramifications, and what we do as a school district? We're very fortunate. Mrs. Gerton was here a little bit ago. She just left. She ended up writing a grant, and we were awarded that grant, and that money is going to be utilized for putting in our restrooms what are called vape detectors. They are detectors that are actually able to detect the vape materials, the moisture, the smoke that comes out of these devices that you've seen here tonight and they talked about. And what happens in that, it sends out a silent alarm to administrators' cell phones. So we'll get a text message and say, hey, kids vaping in the bathroom. The system that we're looking at is directly connected to our cameras, our security cameras here at the school district. So as soon as that alarm goes off, it automatically starts recording a video clip to know who goes in and who comes out of that restroom. It also allows us the opportunity to get moving to that restroom to be able to potentially catch the kids while they are doing that. That is a huge step in the right direction for us. We've talked with quite a few other school districts about vape detectors. Quite a few local school districts do have them installed already, and they said they work really well. And they did heed us a little bit of advice that maybe wear sneakers to school the first couple of months that you have them because they work that well. So not to make light of the situation, but that is a big step that we are taking as a school district to continue to try to help our kids stay safe in the building, because we know kids, and we know what peer pressure is, and we know how difficult that is and how challenging that is. When a kid is presented from a friend of theirs or somebody one of these devices and say, hey, here, man, take a hit on this. It is scary when you think about what potentially could be in it. The kid, number one, doesn't know. Oftentimes the kids are sharing these in the bathroom. It is nothing to find 2 or 3 kids in a bathroom stall together passing one of these devices around to each other. So they don't know what's in it. Officer Davis showed us how easy it is to put other stuff in that vape other than what the kids believe is in there. When you start talking about fentanyl and what that potentially could do to the kids, as well as anybody that comes in contact with us, that makes it very real. And it's scary because it is here. It is in Milton. Fentanyl is in Milton. It has been for a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, right, Officer Davis? Do you happen to know by chance offhand how many fentanyl deaths we had in the recent past here?
I don't know exactly Northumberland County. I'm not sure exactly Northumberland County. Nationwide, we're averaging about 300 fentanyl deaths a day. You go down into Ave, down in that area, you can't even buy heroin anymore. It's all fentanyl. And I've got some videos of kids talking about the fentanyl in Philly and stuff. It's unreal.
So this is something as a school district that we have made a significant commitment to trying to do our best to educate not only our students but our families as well, our community as well, to the dangers that these devices present to our students. It is a real concern for us. It is an epidemic. It has been labeled as an epidemic, and that is a very real thing. We are going to continue. This is going to stay on the forefront of our agenda here at the Milton Area School District, and we are going to do our best to be able to continue to provide a safe environment for our students. With that being said, I'd like to open it up if anybody has any questions about any of the presentations tonight or anything else related to this. The 3 of us would be more than happy to do our best to answer those questions.
And that's the thing, we're not used to know about it. Like, our generation is very unsure of it. We aren't sure what it is, what it looks like, how bad can it be? It smells, it tastes good. This isn't like what we had as cigarettes. This is the whole new generation. So it is. And those companies have taken advantage of that. Our lack of knowledge and kind of not understanding it and literally have pushed it out underneath everybody's noses without even thinking.
This is something that the school will incorporate into the old term DARE, with the younger students, in a program that is a presentation as provided to the members.
We are. Ann has been in all of the middle school. She's doing a day for all the classes in the high school. And I have been teaching classes with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade health, talking about vapes, the marijuanas, the other drugs, just scratching the surface what we can do in an hour-long class. But we are giving it to those students, and they're well aware. We're finding it all the way down 5th grade, 4th grade, and they're going to get that as well. So we will, DARE has kind of went by the wayside with the federal government, but we're running our own show here.
That's one of the big benefits of adding our extra resource officers that we've had, is being able to be more proactive with our students, and talking about possibly adding a 4th SRO. That enables us to our SROs not to strictly react to the things that are going on here in the school, but to be proactive, going in and educating our students, which is where we will see a much larger benefit to our students than just trying to put out the fires as they come over. So.
Ann has done a presentation for all of 5th grade at White Deer already for this school year, so we have reached out to those students. One other thing that we forgot to discuss with the grant, we're going to purchase metal detectors for those areas where Mr. Birdie was talking about, where the students are hiding the devices that we can't go to. When that would go off, then we would have a parent come in to do their own search to find if there is a device there. So.
We did have another question over here.
Do we know who's making these products?
It's a great question.
The people making the products are the people who have made cigarettes in the past. So the companies that Marlboro, Philip Morris, they all own stock in these companies now, because what they're seeing is this is the first time ever that sales of tobacco have dropped significantly, and the vapes have gone up. So those companies are watching the trends. So you're seeing a lot of the companies that used to create the cigarettes are now all buying into the vapes, because this is the future. This is the trend. So good question, yeah. It's the companies who make cigarettes who are making these products. But again, cigarettes smell, they taste bad, nobody likes them. So they had to come up with a new product that kids would like. And candy. Candy, it's all candy flavored.
And if you think of the progression with the older people in the room like myself, you remember back in the day watching NASCAR and the big Marlboro cigarette in the middle, because of federal regulations, that's all banned now. But there's no federal regulations on these new products. That's the same way with the medical marijuana. You can drive down the street and see a billboard advertising these dispensaries. They're pushing different strains of marijuana and stuff towards the kids, just like they are the vapes, and there's no federal regulations that prohibit that. And eventually we're going to see that with the vapes, and then these companies are just going to morph into something else to beat those regulations to get more people addicted. It's all about the money.
Yeah, they're on target to make, it's like billions of dollars this fiscal year. Billions.
I want to thank you guys, those of you that joined us here tonight, and those of you that joined us online. I want to thank you very much for that. This presentation will also be housed on our school district's YouTube channel. So if you know people that were unable to participate tonight, they can always visit our school's YouTube channel to not only see this video, but lots of other videos that are produced here and